Intro for Rachel. There we go.
All right, now we're recording. So everything else, nothing matters what Sean said tonight.
So, Rachel, before you get going, I just want to tell you it's awesome that you stepped up and are doing this for us. I really appreciate it, and as will the audience tonight. It's a great opportunity to showcase, your accomplishments. Number one, and just as important is your upbringing in the shooting sports from when you started in 4-H or prior to that with your dad and mom, and working through that whole process and everything that you've done to get to the point where you are. So I know that takes a lot of work, and we'll probably have a lot of questions for you, but we really appreciate you stepping up tonight and educating us because, from the outside, you look in, we really don't know the world and what it really takes to get there. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say tonight. So it's all yours,
Thank you.
Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rachel Paddock. I'm from Wyoming County, and I have been in 4-H since I was 5, and joined shooting sports basically as soon as I could. And I'm also a Division I rifle shooter because of 4-H. Rifle in the NCAA is just like any other sport out there that's more popular, like football or basketball. And there's still a lot that comes out of being a Division I rifle athlete. So one of my days that I've had this past semester, you can see on the screen right now, where I would wake up in the morning, go to morning workouts, go through a lift because that's also very important to shooting at this level, is being physically fit. And then I would go to my first class of the day. After that, I had just enough time to head over back to the field house to do some physical therapy. And after that was done, I got to go back to another class that was on the opposite side of campus. And once that was done, I had about enough time to grab some lunch before I had to be at the range for practice. Our school has the practice times from 12 to 5:30, and you don't have to be there the whole time. You just need to have at least 3 hours of range time. And then after practice, we would always have a team meeting, just covering what we did in practice, like something new that we learned, or just to troubleshoot if someone's having a problem, like the team can come in and chip in and help each other out. And some stuff I had to do that wasn't like
Rachel?
on the day by day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to reshare your screen because my chat and my telephone are melting down currently with everybody texting me saying we can't see Rachel's screen.
Okay.
No worries.
No, you're fine. Okay, is that better?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. We got you here.
Sounds good. Okay, so as I was saying, there is also a lot of other stuff that we don't have to do day by day, such as we have to have at least 4 hours in study tables, which is basically just a fancy name for study hall. And then on top of that, which is kind of included in the study tables, is about every other week we have an academic advising meeting with our athletic advisor, where they basically go through all of our classes and upcoming projects and due dates and making sure that we will have it done by the due date and preferably before, just so we don't get like drowned in schoolwork and practice. We also have roughly about once a week, we go to a sports psychologist just because in rifle, it's about 80% mental. And that just really helps like clearing your head out before practice. And so for the fun stuff, the matches. So how the matches work is the coaches before the match will pick out 5 people who are going to be the counters. And out of those 5 people, the top 4 scores actually count to be in the team's score. And so now that we have like the scoring covered for the team part, let's just kind of like talk about like what goes into like an actual match. So for travel matches, we typically travel on Fridays, just because we are essentially traveling all over the country competing. And then we get to the hotel, we get a good night's sleep, and then we go compete on Saturday in the morning. And once we're done competing, we had to start heading back to Akron, because on the next day, the people who don't get to travel has to shoot their match the next morning on Sunday. So there is a high level of intensity to the NCAA rifle. For example, as you can see on the picture on the bottom right, there's 3 athletes there competing, and every single one of them is from a country, being Norway, Italy, and the US. I've gone to matches where there has been over 7 people, all from different countries, from different schools. And so we're getting tons of people coming to the US to compete with us. And that's not even counting the coaches who have immigrated to the US to coach this level. Also, what makes it so intense is it demands perfection almost every single time. Like, our coaches expect us to shoot perfect prones because we're all capable of shooting perfect prone targets, as you can see on the bottom left picture. You can also see that that's not a typical target. So what we shoot at is electronic targets. And so back at our firing point, instead of having a spotting scope to see where we're hitting, we have a target monitor, which gives us a bunch of cool different information on our shots, like down to the decimal and how many degrees off it was. So there's a lot of benefits to being a Division I athlete. Probably one of the most known is the scholarships. Most athletes have scholarships within rifle, because how it works, it isn't like most popular sports where you get everything paid for or nothing. Rifle has it to where it is a percentage. And so at the beginning of the year, the coaches get a certain amount of full ride scholarships that they get to divide out between the team. And so, for example, right now I'm at an 18% scholarship. So 18% of my tuition is covered by the NCAA. We also get a lot of team apparel just because they want us to look nice and look as a team. And so the whole team has matching travel suits that we wear to competitions, workout gear, and stuff like that, just so we look as a cohesive team. We also get custom shooting suits, as you can see in like some of the past pictures and coming up in the presentation. Most schools provide at least one suit per the whole career, which is 4 years. But some of the schools will offer more just because people's bodies change, and it's really hard to have a senior fitting in something that was custom to them when they were a freshman. Like I mentioned before, we have an athletic advisor, which is just an extra advisor to help us with our academics. We also get tutoring within that, and we also have access to sports med, like I mentioned before with the physical therapy, as well as the sports psychologist. Something else that is really handy is having priority scheduling. So we get to pick our schedules before everyone else does. And so we have a more likely chance of getting in the classes that we need. The ammo is huge because we have unlimited ammo, 2 limitations to practice with, which is great. As well as having great coaching staffs on hand that you can talk to. on a regular basis. And also, probably one of my favorites is the team is essentially your family, not only because you spend so much time with them on the range, but also outside. Like my team, about half of them live together. And like we all go grocery shopping together, and like any school events, we're there not as a team, but it's basically as a team. So what do you have to do to be a Division I rifle athlete? So probably one of the biggest is you want to have good grades. I know that there's a stereotype out there that student athletes don't have the best of grades, but with rifle, it is very important to have good grades, at least having a B average in your classes, because coaches don't want to have to stress about you being eligible to compete if you have good grades. And the scores that you want to get into one of these programs are at least a 580 air and a 570 small bore. And probably a really important one is to go to matches outside of 4-H. 4-H is great, but it's not geared towards the NCAA, because out of all of the rifle events that they have in 4-H, only one of them is close to what they have in the NCAA. Some other good matches that you can go to are the Junior Olympic qualifiers, and there's two of them in New York. One is in Jamestown and one is held at West Point. I would encourage going to the West Point one just because it's on electronic targets and their campus is beautiful. And they're also another Division I school that you get to compete at. Another good resource is Camp Perry and the CMP. They host monthly matches just for junior athletes, and coaches really watch these matches, as well as college open matches. I would argue that these are the most important matches to hit, just because the coaches are running those matches. You get to see the athletes compete and how they work as a team. For example, my school's open match is the Zippy Open, and coming into that match, we go through our team room with a fine-tooth comb, making sure that everything is perfectly clean, and going through our lockers and making sure that everything looks the nicest, because we're having recruits come in and looking at what we have to offer. Another thing that you need to have that people overlook a lot is to have a good attitude. I know a girl who has multiple national records, have placed at international matches, who was practically blacklisted from NCAA rifle because after one match, she was bad-mouthing another athlete who just happened to have her coach standing right behind her, who was the coach for Texas Christian University. And after that, hardly anybody would communicate with her about having a spot on their team for her. Also, being coachable is crucial, because not only are these coaches looking for a good athlete at the moment, but they're also looking for the potential to make an even better athlete down the road. As well as you want to have a clean social media presence, because these coaches dig very deep into what they can find. And if you're posting inappropriate things on social media, they're going to look at that and say that they don't want that on their team. And so now let's get into recruiting. There's a lot of different rules within recruiting, but that's for the coaches to know. And so the athletes don't really have to worry about it as much, because they should be told, like, hey, I can't do this because of this. But one of these rules is coaches can't start talking to you till June 15th of your sophomore year. But I would encourage emailing them beforehand, just so they know who you are and that you're emailing constantly to them, so they always have your name in the back of their mind. But with this being said, you're probably only going to get one email response till June 15th, which is basically going to say, I can't talk to you, but here's a questionnaire that you can start filling out before June 15th. And then down the road, like towards the end of your recruiting process, you'll get a visit, either an official or an unofficial. The only difference is in these are who's pays for them. The official is when the college pays for it, and the unofficial is when you pay to come visit. At these visits, not only is it good for the athlete to be there to see if this is a school and team they want to be a part of, but also for the team looking at the recruit of being, if do we want to spend the next 4 years with this person? How they normally work, at least at my school, is you always get to have a family dinner with the team, as we like to call them. You get a tour of the school, as well as being able to sit in one of the classes that one of the team members are on. And there's also other stuff like watching practices, like hanging out with the team for the day. And overall, it's just a really fun experience for both the athlete and the team. So I covered a lot about D1 shooting. And I know there's probably a lot of questions out there, so this is the time.
All right. Well, thank you, Rachel. That was I'll admit, from my seat here, that was a fire hose of information. A lot of good information though, too. So I guess Rachel's tossing it out there to the group. So who's got the first question? Don't be shy.
This is Nathan. I've got one little clarification on there as far as the scholarships go. The scholarship is not a percentage of tuition, but of total college cost.
Is someone asking a question? Because I can't hear it, Sean.
Yeah, Nate, you need to get a little closer to that mic, bud.
Oh, okay, how's this? Can you hear me now?
A lot better.
Okay, so a quick clarification on the scholarship money. What it is a percentage of total college cost. So that room and board, food, all of that, it's a percentage of that, not just the tuition. So if they offer you a 10% scholarship, that's of what the college says it costs to go there for a year, which is usually about double or triple what tuition is.
Okay. So I got a question for you, Rachel. How many full ride scholarships does the college team give out for shooting?
So for rifle, it is 4.6.
Okay, and the team has how many members?
This coming year, my team is going to have 17.
17. All right,
Yes.
so he can only give out 4.6 full ride scholarships, or if I understood you properly, he can break down some of those scholarships and give each student some. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, and so is that essentially what he does with all of those 4.6 scholarships?
So he goes through, and like the freshmen roughly get anywhere from 5 to 10%. And then depending on how well you do that season, you will get an increase. It's just whether about how much of an increase you'll get in scholarships.
Okay. So, you know, your daily practice regimen, yeah, I found that very interesting. So how much weight training is in that? Because I that might sound a little odd to some people, but how much weight training, strength training, you know, obviously there's a lot to it. So how much is there?
So there's mandatory 2 hours a week, but a lot of the people on the team will go to the rec on their own time to lift. And a lot of the times that they're like invite other people and have like unofficial team workouts, but instead of having it being in the field house, it's in the rec.
Okay, so are you doing a lot of core exercising? Is it upper body strength? Is it to strengthen your arms? What do you focus on? It might be different for each athlete. I understand that, but I'm sure there's some core exercises in that training that they want you to do. Do you know, what are they?
Yeah, so we do a lot of compound exercises, which are just like incorporating multiple muscle groups. We do a lot with back and core just because we are shooting so much that it does put a lot of strain on our back. We also do a lot with like your balance muscles. So we get to do a lot of things one-legged with our eyes shut, which is very interesting. As well as working on different stabilizing muscles.
Okay, so there's a coach that specifically handles that with you guys, right? It's not and okay, so there's a coach specifically set up to do that rack weight training with you, and he tailors it to each athlete.
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
A lot of the times we'll have it with groups, but there will be modifications for each person, especially because it gets tricky because we are a co-ed team. And so a lot of the times we might have it where like the guys are doing this, the girls are doing this.
Okay, so if you could give some advice to this audience specifically, so we have some young 4-H shooters out there, what exercises in general might be good for them to start actually doing to prepare themselves to be better shooters?
Oh, yeah. I would highly recommend like just going to the gym just so you are used to doing different exercises. Cardio is great. I know I like to swim because I do not like running at all, but it also is great for other muscles groups as well as breath control. But just doing like squats, lunges, lots of planks. I know we do a lot of bench press, and deadlifts like that. But mostly the muscles groups, well, exercises that hits more than just one muscle at a time would be great for rifle.
Okay, so a disciplined program will certainly help any 4-H'er out there that's looking really to go to the mastery of skill level where you're at. So okay, the other question I had for you, someone has a question in the chat box, Sean. I think they wanted to know, what caliber do you shoot in competition?
Okay, so I compete with 2 different rifles. The one is, am I still screen sharing?
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so this rifle right here, this is my 22. It's one of the 2 guns that I shoot with, but we call it small bore just because we have to be fancy. And then my other one is just an air rifle.
Okay, so you're doing air rifle and 22 rimfire, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm sure, you said the ammunition that the team provides, or, okay, so what kind of ammunition does the team provide? What brand do you use, and is it special?
Yeah, so it is special match ammo. And they have a lot of different types of brands and lot numbers. So for practice, we just use SK, and then our coaches will go through and like lock our rifles down in a vise and shoot groups with them with different brands and lots of ammo and see which one our guns like the best. So the match ammo that we use is different for everyone.
Okay, so basically you figure out what flavor that rifle likes, and then they set that lot aside for Rachel because it really works well out of your gun, but Steve, it doesn't work well out of his, and it's another lot. So
yeah,
they
exactly.
get very specific. Okay, great. So now the next question, you just
mind if I hop on that a little bit, Rob?
Absolutely, yeah.
So the ammo is intriguing because literally you find what ammo works for it. So the throat of her rifle is specially cut for Ely ammo, but even within the Ely brand, you might, what comes off the machine today might work way better than what comes off tomorrow. So they're literally not just the make and model of it, for instance, Ely 10X, but what actual lot number. It starts getting to that point of intensity.
Okay, so that, so that's SK, Ely. I'm sure there's some other brands. What are the brands,
Yeah,
Rachel?
we have Wolf, Lapua, and I think those are the main ones that we use. And within each of those brands, they have different types.
They have different sub brands. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, well, I mean, that makes a big difference, certainly. So does the school provide your rifle, or did that come with you?
So I have my own rifle. They do have a few if you don't have your own, but it's highly recommended that you bring your own.
Okay. And what does a rifle that's capable of shooting at the collegiate level for an athlete like yourself, approximately, what do those cost? I know there must a lot of variables, but do the best you can.
So as of right now, probably one of the most popular models out there is the Walther KK 500, and you can buy that brand new for 6,000, bare bones, just the gun. You don't even get a pair of sights.
Okay.
And that's for small bore. And then for air rifle, it's definitely a lot less. As of right now, probably like the most popular is also the Walther Monotech, and that's going around for 4,000.
Okay. So are those rifles much lighter than, than other rifles? I know that they're modular in their design and build, but are they very light?
No, they're actually heavy.
They're heavy. Okay.
But they're also very well balanced. You might be able to see it in the picture that I have up right now. Like right here, you can see that there's something right there. They're actually tire weights they can put on to balance out your rifle. But they also, the quality control on these rifles are a lot higher than something else that you would find. And the adjustments on them are insane. Like you can even adjust the trigger like up and down and side to side.
Okay, so we have another question. What other disciplines are offered at this level? So obviously you do rifle. So is there an archery team? Is there shotgun? Are there those other type of shooting sports?
There is, but it's not for the NCAA. Like we have a club pistol team, but they're just affiliated with something else. And I know that there are also some shotgun programs and some archery programs out there. It's just not that they're affiliated with the NCAA.
Gotcha. So those are club programs versus the team that competes in the NCAA, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, understood. All right. So what so your coaches, obviously, you go to some different clinics, a bunch of different things that you go to that people have attended, that I've gone to, and you have that core of instructors that usually have a few things that they want to absolutely send home, and they message every time that you pull the trigger and you're training. And it could be, natural point of aim, it could be follow through, it could be a multitude of things. So what are, like, if you can you possibly give us like the top three things that your coaches are constantly, messaging to you or reconfirming with you when you train?
That's a really difficult question, to be honest. So it really depends on who you are. But probably the big ones that they harp on is definitely NPA. Like even just having it off by a tiny bit will cause you to throw shots that you wouldn't want to. Also, sight alignment. is also huge, not just between like the rings and the sights, but your front sight and your rear sight, because when you're aiming, sometimes you forget to double check, and that can cause your shot to be off by a couple millimeters, which can be just enough not to hit the 10.
But
Okay.
just to clarify there, Rachel, just for everybody's edification, since I'm sure not everybody's up on the lingo. NPA, natural point of aim, correct?
Yes.
I want to be in the square with everybody else.
Okay, so we have another question, and it comes in saying, how long is a shooting season, Rachel?
Okay, it is very long. So it's not like most sports where it's just spring, winter, or fall. We're actually a split season. So even though we're technically a winter sport, we start in August and we don't get done until March.
Start in August and don't get done till March.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're talking, it's an 8-month season.
Yeah, but since it's a split season, we have a season in the fall semester, and we're lucky to actually get most of our winter break, and then we start back up again for a spring season.
Okay, so can you elaborate a little bit on, you said that it's a psychologist that talks with you guys. Is that who it was?
Mhm.
Okay, so what did they talk to you about? They just give us some insight into that. I'm interested in what you had to say.
Okay, yeah. So they talk a lot with like imposter syndrome, like especially like to like the freshmen, like they feel like they shouldn't be here. Like he talks us through that a lot. I know a big thing with me is being okay with being good. So like I'll be like shooting a match and I'll realize like, oh, I haven't dropped a shot in a long time, and then I would start dropping them as soon as I thought that. Or I would be doing good, like on track to like shatter my record, and then my last target, I dropped more shots in that last target than I did the whole rest of the match. And like just stuff like that. He also helps us like if there's like any like team drama, to help us like through that, just because we do spend so much time together. And if you don't want to be around someone who's always at the range, it's really hard to practice.
Okay, that's interesting. So, basically you identified that basically once you start realizing you're doing real well, that's when your bell curve starts to go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Okay, so what does he tell you to do to get past that? He's going to tell you to push through and continue to focus, obviously, but or what does he or she say to you? What is the fix? What do they recommend?
Mm-hmm. So he's told me to acknowledge that I'm doing good and that I continue doing good. And about just like trusting your training, about how like, you know what, I'm not going to think about this. I'm not going to waste my mental energy worrying about shots that I can't control, and to only focus on the present and the shot that you're taking at the moment, because it doesn't matter the shot that you already took. And it also, the shot that you're going to take and say 3 shots also doesn't matter. It's just the one that you're taking.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So, obviously, whenever we have a training session with our 4-Hers, we try to give them something to walk away with to improve on. And, I guess it's just like you said, it's having a good attitude. And ultimately for me, that culminates into just good sportsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
being a good teammate. And I mean, I've seen that constantly, especially with you and a lot of your fellow shooters from Wyoming County and even other places, where you guys are always so very helpful to everybody. And it's not an us and them type of situation, so, I really appreciate that about, how you guys, have been very helpful to us especially in the competitive arena. And you can recall when I'd ask you, I said, what are you doing? You know, like the way you were putting your ankle or whatever the case might be, or whatever the situation was. So, you know, I look at that as really good sportsmanship, and, you know,
Mhm.
we should be focusing on that with our 4-Hers. But, you know, good attitude is really important, you know.
Yeah, and it's like the shooting sports in the competitive world of it is so great with that. It was 2 years ago at the Junior Olympics. A family was going out there and their car got stolen with all of their gear in it. And they were still able to compete because complete strangers was like, here, I have a jacket that fits you, use it. And like people like loaning them equipment so they can still compete. And these are people who are from different states who are competing against them.
Okay. So, you know, that's a good segue into, you can give us a little more insight. And did you visit an Olympic facility this year? And check
Yes.
out it?
This April I competed at the Junior Olympics, and this year it was held at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, which was just a great experience. Colorado is so beautiful, and it was wonderful, like walking out of the range, and then you just see the mountains that are like every time it was just so pretty.
So, yeah, it definitely is pretty out there. I've been there. So tell us a little bit about your experience shooting there. Were they coaching you? Were they observing you? What did you do while you were there? What was that all about?
Like as when I was a junior, or like this past year.
This past trip that you just went out there.
Okay, yeah. So it was kind of different for me because my coach is also affiliated with USA Shooting, and so he was one of the range officers there, like controlling the line. But like you would have like people like come up to me, like ask questions about the team, and it's like how to get on it and like stuff like that. And also we're there as representatives of Akron and Akron's rifle team. And so it was like best behaviors, like always be smiling. It's like, you know what, you had a bad day on the line, like don't let anyone else know that from like how you're acting. And um but yeah, and then it's like one of the alumni from Akron is a resident athlete out there, and it's like she pulled one of my teammates aside before a match to like help her like clear out her head and stuff. And right after that, she ended up like shattering her personal record, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, how did you get invited out there to the facility to do that event? How did that come about?
So how you do that is you go to Junior Olympic qualifier matches. And like I mentioned back in my presentation, there's two of them. One is in Jamestown and one is at West Point. Um, and how it works is they have a score that they have before the match that if you shoot this score, you automatically gets to go. So for rifle this year for the women was 585, and then for men it 580. And then for small bore it was 570, but it was different for men, but I don't really remember those scores off the top of my head. Um, and then you automatically gets to go if you get that score or higher. And then the USA Shooting Committee will look at the rest of the scores and lower the score till they get the top 200 people in the country. And if that score, whatever it is, you get invited if you're higher. And then once the invites go out, if they still don't have their 200, they lower it down some more until they get the top 200 in the country for both men's small bore, women's small bore, men's air rifle, and women's air rifle.
Okay. So I understand that, you know, obviously ammunition, equipment, training, you know, as we continue to to improve all of those things, and the technology in that equipment specifically gets better, like the scores, I understand, like you're shooting today, probably would have won the Olympics 4 or 8 years ago. Is that correct?
Not for 8 years ago, but like in the 80s, I think I was when I was in 10th grade, I was out shooting the scores that like back in the 80s won.
Okay. Very interesting. So, Sean, why don't you put out there, is there anybody else with additional questions? We only had 3 typed in, and, I can ask you questions all night, but, other people, you can unmute and ask questions at any time.
Yes, let your voice be heard. But if not, I got actually one follow-up one from something you mentioned earlier, Rachel. So your shooting season effectively ends in March. So
Mhm.
what does your training regimen look like in the off season before you pick up back in August?
So it really depends on if you're going to Junior Olympics or not. So for me, is I took a couple days off after our last match just to have like a breather, and then I went back into practicing like I normally did. It's just that like the whole team wasn't there and we didn't have mandatory team meetings after that. And then once Junior Olympics passed, I had a week left of classes and then finals. And so I took that time just to catch up on what I missed from being out at JOs for 2 weeks. And so I didn't practice since then. But it's very open. You don't have a set time. It's just they expect you to show up every so often, if that makes sense.
No, it does. So and then segueing back to the Junior Olympics, is that something you're going to try and pursue again next your next academic year coming up?
I think so. I was really close to making finals, and I would like to at least be in finals at least once. But I still have 2 more years as a junior that I could compete.
Okay. So are we looking at a potential future gold medalist here for the United States?
I don't know, maybe.
Well, Nate, I'm putting my money on it now. So right, you can put me down for this, all right?
Okay.
I don't think we're supposed to be betting on Cornell website.
Informal. We're talking like M&Ms, okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that's allowed. Well, it's there's a lot more to this than meets the eye, and certainly, being able to share your experience, with, more your peers, but just as important, if not more importantly, your juniors and those upcoming shooters. It's really important. So I appreciate your attitude and willingness to do that. And you're obviously a natural at it. I've seen you in action with it. So you gotta continue to do that, as I know you will, especially knowing your family. But again, it's one of those sports where it's an individual sport, but you're on a team. And how does that dynamic work? Yeah, it's an individual sport, but you're a team. Does that ever, create friction points?
Not really. I personally like it a lot better because like one of the girls on the team, she's like right at my level. Like it's a toss up who shoots higher when. And so it's great for making the whole team better because everyone wants to be the best, but only one person can be. But everyone acknowledges that what, you can't always be first. But you're gonna work hard so you can.
Okay. So I got an equipment question. So you're doing real well with your rifle. it jams up, you're having a mechanical issue with it, do you have an armorer on that team that will look at those things, or are you on your own?
So we have an equipment manager. And yeah, but about half the people on my team are engineer majors, and our assistant coach is also an engineer, so they're very engineering minded, and so they could practically rebuild a rifle if they wanted to.
Okay, so obviously it's handled at the team level, and
Hmm.
you have an overall armorer, I guess, that can do super technical stuff, I would assume.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, all right. So here's the question that some people are thinking out there that are shooters. How often do you clean your competition rifle?
So I don't clean it as much as I should. I normally do it at least once a week. Um, but like some of your top people will be cleaning them like in between positions. Um, but also I am shooting probably close to 500 rounds a week, if that's more precise answer before I clean it.
Okay, so you're telling me the top shooters clean it in between events, really?
They get
But
done with kneeling, they like take the bolt out, clean it, then go right back into prone and do the
So-
same thing in standing.
so they run patches or brushes through the barrel and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like those are the guys from the Army Marksmanship Unit, which that's their job, is basically to win and make the US Army look good. And they do a good job at their job.
Go Army.
I'll pass that on to Emil Praslik for you. So that's interesting because Emil was a huge proponent of you never clean it if it's shooting perfect. So,
Mm,
but I guess that's changed. I'm not really
Mhm.
sure. So are they using the same equipment as you, the Army Marksmanship Unit, or what are they using? Do you know offhand in the?
It really depends on personal preference. I know my one gun for air rifle is the older model of what most of the guys are using for air. But the guns that most of them use for small bore are like $10,000, and yeah, they're really high end. And
Do they make them themselves, Rachel, or do they purchase them?
no, they purchase the guns, but a lot of them will make custom modifications to it. Like when they travel, they bring like a CNC machine, I think. It's like something breaks, so they can just make a new part. And like they have like a huge trailer just full of stuff.
Okay, yeah, that would be pretty interesting to compete against for sure.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of resources to bear there. So, I mean, you got to feel good when you go up against them and do just as well, if not beat them.
I haven't beat them yet, but keyword yet.
Okay, there you go. There goes the good attitude. Outstanding. So, Sean, are there any other questions out there?
I am not seeing any, but I was actually just about to put in the chat here that
I have a
we
question.
got about 10 minutes left.
I have a question for her about her journaling and how that works.
Okay, ask away.
So we're supposed to be journaling after every time we shoot, at least, just for like either like writing down like what you ate and how it affects you, like if you're super stressed out, and how it affects your shooting, like if you try something new, just so it's down in paper. But there's some people who will journal like 5 times during a practice.
So,
All right.
so in other words, like
Yeah.
if you're like shooting and you're doing a lot of whatever burping or something like that,
Mhm.
you need to be paying attention. Boy, what did I eat prior to this? Is that what you're saying? So that you can get yourself in a lane where you know what you should be eating prior to a match. Okay.
Yeah,
Good
or like if
consistency.
you have like a pop before, it's like, oh, I'm super shaky. Note to self, don't drink pop before a match.
Okay.
Or it's like you're shooting and it's like you just feel like your stomach is like super heavy. It's like, okay, do not eat a cheeseburger before a match.
Okay. You were going to say something, Sean? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, kind of along similar lines. You know, what are the, you know, big takeaways? Like, you know, if you got a big exam coming up in one of your classes, you know, does that have any sort of mental impact on how you're approaching a match, or does the academic workload not necessarily have any psychological bearing on you know, or your stress levels or anything like that? Like, what are some of the key takeaways you've learned from the practice of journaling, and what have you learned about yourself, and how does that apply to your shooting?
Okay, yeah. So how I help with that is to compartmentalize it and have it where it's like, okay, I'm here shooting. The only thing that matters right now is the shot that I'm taking right now. And that anatomy test is in 2 days. It can wait. Like just like being in the moment, and just really focusing on that. And there's like, no, once my gun's cased up, get the flashcards out.
Okay.
So when you go on some of these shoots with other colleges, what's like the farthest you go? I mean, do they put you on planes and fly you across the country, or is it more just regionally focused?
Alaska is the farthest from us. And so we fly there. We're
Okay.
actually going there this season. But
So Alaska, so what other locations?
like Alaska, TCU, that's a pretty far one. Uh, which is Texas Christian University. Yeah, Nebraska is a pretty far one. There's one in Colorado, which is the Air Force Academy. That's pretty far away. Ole Miss. There's one in Alabama, but for the most part, we can drive to them. It's just you spend all of Friday in a van.
Okay. All right. And that's where your academic study halls, I guess that's where they keep you focused on making sure you stay on target where you need to
Mhm.
be.
Yeah,
academically?
exactly.
Okay. Understood. Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. Um, so your competition at 4-H nationals and your competition as an athlete at the collegiate level, is it similar in how they run them? Just as an example.
So when I went out to nationals, I competed in air rifle, and they have two similar events, which is the standing air, which we just shoot more shots in the NCAA, and we have a lot more of the equipment just because it is precision and not sport like in 4-H. At nationals, it was ran almost the same way. It's just ended a lot sooner. And then for the 3P, it was very different than how the NCAA runs it. So how they run it is you start in kneeling, then you go to prone, then you go to standing. And there's only one time that's designated for sighters, and you have 15 minutes for your kneeling sighters. And once the record time starts, you shoot your kneeling, and then you click a button on your monitor, and it takes you into your sighters for prone, and you can shoot as long as you want in prone sighters before going to record. And same thing for standing. But in 4-H, it starts in prone, standing, and then kneeling. And each position has its own designated time for sighters. And so it's a lot more blocked up than in the NCAA. But at 4-H nationals, the people who are running the range are Division I athletes who are working for the CMP. And so a lot of it is very reminiscent of the NCAA.
Okay. That's good information. Well, I think we're getting towards the end here, correct, Sean?
Yeah, we got a couple minutes here.
Yep.
That's
Well, I just want to say that, Rachel, you're an awesome example as a 4-H'er who I know you'll contribute back to 4-H as you continue to go forward. And, this has been a lot of information, and certainly for people that have no idea what it's like to be a collegiate level NCAA athlete in shooting, it's a lot of good information. I mean, people ask all the time, and there's always something that you can learn, and you keep an open mind. And again, that good attitude and that great sportsmanship that you're referring to is important. So, at the end of the day, again, thank you for what you do and what you've done for 4-H. We love your family, and we can't say thank you enough for what they've done for 4-H shooting sports here in New York. I mean, I'm sure, you go up against some states when you were a 4-H'er, like Texas and Georgia and Louisiana, and those states, they dump all kinds of money into their 4-H program and sponsor those kids to go to those things. So you guys as a family and as a program out there in Wyoming County have, bore a lot of that on your backs to get you where you are. So, kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Sean, what do you got?
all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, do we have any last minute questions here that you're dying to ask? If not, Rachel, thank you for participating tonight. It was great.
Thank you for having me.
On. And hopefully, maybe a year from now, we'll have you back and, follow up and see what other lessons you've learned and little nuggets of wisdom you can pass on to the 4-H community as we continue to work and grow and expand here. And I see in the chat, there's a lot of folks saying thank you as well. So that's great to see.
How about any information from Nate as a parent of a collegiate level athlete? Got anything to add to this, Nate?
Make sure your car has good tires and a full tank of gas, because you get to drive the country. And in all reality, though, if she had not gotten into college and it all ended there, it would have been just a fabulous journey. The time we spent together driving places, you've traveled, it doesn't always go smooth. We had a lot of fun adventures. Wouldn't give up any of that time for anything. So it's a wonderful journey. Don't let the complexities get you. You can do almost all of that same journey in sporter rifle without dropping 10 grand on a rifle. And so don't let the fancy equipment bug you. That is paying for all the work that we did coming up till now with the scholarships, but you can still have the same adventures with a sporter rifle.
Outstanding. Well, again, Nate, thank you for everything you and your family does to make this program in New York State 4-H shooting sports specifically, work as well as it does. And you've really brought it up to the next level. And, you guys are always looking to make it better for the next, folks behind us. So I can't thank you guys enough.
Well, thanks for putting this together, Bob.
Sean.
All right. So just like last time, give me a day or two and I will kick out an email letting everybody know when this has been posted. So this way, those who weren't able to join us tonight can go back and view this awesome discussion we had. And also, in that email will be included the date for the next targeted topics, which again, it will be July 18th. And we look forward to having and seeing everybody back for that event. So, Bob, any last words?
So again, thank you everybody that zoomed in tonight. We're looking to grow this. Looking at the numbers we have and some of the screens, I see multiple people, so it can be deceiving the numbers, but us putting this information out and you getting more people to attend. Again, we're going to have some great topics in the future here. You heard what next month is, but we're going to be pressing some of these great parent coaches that we have into service and start, looking at some of the more technical aspects of, hey, we're going to give you some coaching tips to work with on kids and things like that, et cetera. So I look forward to seeing everybody next month. Back to you, Sean.
All right. Again, thank you everybody for coming out. And again, like I said, the email is going to be coming out in the next day or two that will have all the information for the next meeting, but also letting you know when this one's posted. So this way you can share this within your own 4-H programs in your own county communities. So again, thank you very much, and signing off.